Yeah. And I'm just really sorry that your children died.
I don't think I can do that part.
Yeah, I told you that's how me and Mom do it.
If it makes sense for your mom to do that, that's cool, but it doesn't make sense for me, and that's what I was explaining to you.
Why doesn't it make sense for you?
Because it's ridiculous.
Is it?
It's sad. The question is, why do you want to do it?
You are just terrible at this.
Oh, man, I'm trying. Let me ask you a question. Why does everything have to be like this kind of weird, eccentric thing that you do?
It.
I know, but why not just do something normal? Like
What's
everything
normal?
in your real life.
What's normal?
Okay, fine. Good point.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Film Roast Podcast. My name is Isaiah Lucas, and I'm joined by my co-hosts.
Abraham.
And Nick.
How are you guys doing tonight?
Good.
Yeah, doing really good.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. I
Yeah.
am as well.
Good day. Didn't do anything.
Nice.
Got you relaxed. I got to see the opposite side of the Joker, man.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, very true.
Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, it's such a stark contrast doing a movie like Joker and then the next year doing a movie like this.
Yeah. To see his body transformation too, because he's got some.
You get some weight back on.
He's got some dad bod in his front, so he changed a lot.
I also think too. I think it just shows his versatility.
Oh, for sure.
As an actor.
Yeah.
And that, he can go and win the Oscar for Best Actor one year, and then turn around and play this fun-loving uncle who is like the wholesomest guy.
Yeah, wholesome, confused, but joyful, and
yeah. I was
somewhat lost too.
Yeah.
I was talking to Alexa and you, and I was like, dude, I know it sounds bad, but like if I ever had a situation where like I had to go away, and I needed someone to watch my kid, I hope my siblings are like that, but I know it's not gonna happen.
Oh, like I'll take him from you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's just that the relationship that they have. I want that.
Yeah.
For my kids.
Yeah, I think I could say the same. And one of the things that I really
show this movie to your brothers and say, this
Sal
is what I want from you.
My older brother Sal watched it with me, and all he did was
he was screen.
Yeah.
Oh, what do they call it? Screen time or screen? What do they say? The screening.
Screen time.
Screen time.
Yeah. You feel very screeny or something like that.
A screenful.
Yeah, screenful.
Screenful. Yeah.
So he watched it, but
isn't that the worst feeling? Like when you
I called him to come. I was like, dude, come over. Like you said you were gonna come over. We can hang out. Like I'm folding my laundry and then I gotta watch a movie. And he goes, oh, what movie? So I told him. He's like, yeah, I'll watch it. Comes over.
Watch it, my butt.
I was glued to the screen.
That's one of the things that like it hurts my soul. Like when I recommend a movie to somebody or they come over and I'm like, dude, we should watch this. Like I really liked it and I want to show you it.
Yeah.
And like the person can tell that like I'm excited to show them something that I liked, and then I show it to them and I look over and they're just like scrolling. Yeah. I'm just like, oh,
put
man.
it away. Put it. You don't.
It's
only 2. I'm only asking you for 2 hours.
I will defend my brother a little bit though. I know this is not his style of movie.
Oh yeah, but
100%. So it's like,
I don't know. It because I've had that happen to me so often. Like I have been like, very adamant about watching something or very passionate about a certain film or show or something like that. And like, especially in my family, like, oh dude, like all the time people will ask me like, oh, what movie should we watch? And I'll recommend something and they're like, oh, okay, let's do it.
And everybody's just on their phone.
No, they'll watch it and the whole time everybody will just be like, oh, isn't that crazy when he did this? What if this happened? And like I'm just like, I don't even want to watch the movie anymore, dude. Like, stop talking. It's gotten to points too where like I'll pause the movie because everybody's just talking, and then they'll look at it and be like, why'd you pause it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, nobody's paying attention, so I'm just gonna stop it and then I'll watch it on my own.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, why do you got to be a Debbie Downer? Oh, you're so serious. Well, play the movie. I'm like, I want to watch it. Like I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like I want
Yeah,
to
I
sit
get
time
you.
to watch.
I
the
think
thing.
if you know, none of the listeners obviously don't know, but my mom's house is very tiny.
Yeah.
So when we're sitting there and I'm like trying to be focused, because whenever when I watch TV shows and movies that I like, I would love to just have like completely blank blackness and darkness and just listen.
I feel like that's how we felt when we were watching Prey.
Yeah, we had no
We had
distractions.
no distractions.
But
We
yeah.
were just.
In my mom's tiny house, it's like people are reaching like over the counter, and when
Yeah.
you turn that dishwasher on, you just hear like woggle, woggle, woggle.
It sounds like you're doing the grapefruit challenge,
It's like,
dude.
I'm sitting there, and I'm like, I can't get engaged. This
Yeah.
sucks. So I always get too overwhelmed, and I have to pause it.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no
Yeah.
way.
I think I get like that for certain things, not for movies, because
Yeah.
I think.
Or
I mean,
like,
my
I'm trying to-
circle's pretty small, so like, anytime I watch a movie, it's either gonna be with you guys
Or like
or
you
with like my brother or
like
something.
you could say the same thing for like music.
Yeah.
Like someone
Oh,
like
bro.
be in the car on the aux and
Yeah.
somebody will be like, "Oh, dude, turn this song on. It's a fire. Like it's a bop." And you turn it on and then somebody's like just not vibing with it or is like, "Oh, this is trash."
dude, I-
you know, like turn
Oh.
this or something.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, "You kidding me, man?"
I
Yeah.
feel like you're just calling me out because I'm like that.
You call people trash, or you put on stuff and people call you trash?
Both. Both. Dude, me and my cousins will be vibing, and then Sal's in the back and goes and puts his AirPods on when we're blasting the
Yeah.
music.
Oh, that's
And I'm like, there's 5 of us in this car, 4 of us are vibing, and you have
Yeah.
your AirPods on. Like, come on.
Yeah.
yeah.
But then
That's
sometimes-
pretty
but
dirty.
then- But then when like he's on aux, I'm like, let me put my AirPods on.
Yeah.
Said
So I'm-
disrespect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dang, he called me out.
Well, side notes aside, the movie that we're talking about today is called Come On, Come On. It came out in 2021, and it was directed and written by Mike Mills.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the only other movies that he's done, I know he did 20th Century Women, which we watched together, I believe.
Did we?
Yeah, I think we watched it in the living room one time. Like, we just put it on because it was on Netflix one time.
20th Century Woman. Why does
Yeah.
that not sound familiar?
It had a what's her name? She's director. She directed Lady Bird. She's in it. She acts in
Greta
it.
Gerwig?
Yes, she's in it, and a couple other actresses are in it.
Why
I don't.
do I have no
It's not
memory
too memorable,
of this?
but I remember all of us checking it out, and I was like excited to watch it, and then we watched it, and I was kind of like, man,
Let down?
yeah. I was like, oh, that's kind of lame.
I don't know anything of the director.
He did another movie. I think his debut film was with Ian McGregor.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
I forget what it's called. I want to say it's called like The Beautifuls or something like that. I'm not exactly
Beautiful.
sure.
I'm looking at his stuff right now. Are
So
you
we're
talking
all-
about what he wrote or what he directed?
Directed.
His direction.
So we're all fairly new to this director, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is only his third film.
Oh, wow. So he's new.
Yeah. So
somewhat.
he hasn't done too much work. So I caught wind of this actually because I think I had started following A24 on Instagram, and they had posted about this movie that they were going to be dropping called Come On, Come On, and I saw Joaquin Phoenix attached to it.
You said, all right.
And I immediately was like, oh, I got to check it out. Whatever it's going to be, and I saw Joaquin and some kid, and I was like, okay, whatever this is going to be, I'm going to check it out regardless. And then when the trailer dropped for it, I was like, this looks like awesome. Like, I don't know what it's going to be about. The trailer doesn't give you too much. It looks like it's all in black and white. And I was like, this seems interesting. I'm intrigued by this. And I remember showing Alexa the trailer, and she agreed. And we went and checked it out at the Maya Cinema.
Oh, so you watched this in theaters?
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we went and checked it out at the Maya, and we went in with no expectations and left in tears.
Really?
Yeah, we left and we were just like, that was such a wholesome movie. I loved it.
Yeah.
It had me crying. It had me thinking about like being the best possible uncle that I could be, like, to my niece and nephew, and like I don't know, it left me with this whole like wholesome feeling and feeling like I was less lonely in the world. And I had been wanting to rewatch it ever since I watched it that first time in theaters, and this was the time to do so. And I got to show it to you guys for the first time as well, so I'm excited to see what you guys think about it.
Yeah.
Did you cry, Nick?
I did not. No. I don't know what it was. I wasn't as impacted by this movie as I thought I would be. I'm not exactly sure why, though. I'm still trying to to get my thoughts on why it didn't really. Because at the end of it, I was like, oh, this is a great way to end it. But I never ever had a once feeling of crying or even sad for that matter. It wasn't really that sad to me. Is it?
Yeah, it wasn't. When I
would
said
say
that I
it wasn't
cried, it wasn't.
sad.
It wasn't sad tears.
No,
it was
I
more
wasn't.
like happy, like to me,
Oh, yeah.
emotional, impactful tears. And like it gets me at the end whenever he says like, if you don't remember everything, I'll remind you.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. I was like, that's cool.
And it was like that heart touching, like, oh, dude, that's so precious. Like,
Yeah.
That was where it was getting me.
I cried twice.
And it got me too whenever towards the end, whenever he says, whenever Jesse says, I think Johnny is my best friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's when I
that
started-
was where I
It's
was
like
just kind of like,
he only has 2 friends.
yeah, and I was, that just hit me, and like I guess it just hit home for me because like when I first heard my nephew say that I was his best friend, like granted he was like 3, but hearing him say like, his mom videotaped him and said, "Who's your best friend?" and he said Isaiah, and I was just kind of like, oh my gosh, like so, happy and all this, and like, I don't know, I got that feeling whenever I watched this, and I felt like it was. You don't see movies get made often about, the relationship between an uncle and a nephew. It's always about like a father and a son, or, the father-daughter relationship, or mother-son, mother-daughter. Like it's always about the kid and the parent.
Mm-hmm.
It's never about the kid and the parent's brother or the parent's sister.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought that it was an interesting way to show, how those relationships can be on screen, and
For sure.
how convoluted they can be and how complex kids are. Like,
Yeah, I was convicted because I'm guilty of always talking down on kids and how stupid I think. Not stupid, but naive and like, oh, they don't even think about these complex issues. Oh, that's why they love the cartoons. And it's not. I don't entirely believe that, but I do generalize way too much for kids. I think we even did that in the last on Soul. We were saying like, oh, kids wouldn't get this.
Yeah, understand.
Yeah,
these
and
concepts.
maybe to an extent that's true, but also we don't give them enough credit.
Yeah,
I was gonna ask you, what do you think? Because I know you're not a big fan
of child
actors.
No, I think they did it perfectly here, and it blew me away because whenever I had heard the fact that all of the interviews that they were doing wasn't scripted at all, and that they literally just sat them down and said, hey, we're going to answer a few questions. Like, they didn't even tell them they were going to be on the movie or anything. And to hear these genuine responses, I'm like, there's no way you could have like goaded them into sounding more sophisticated. No. This is how it comes out. Yeah. And it doesn't come out with these eloquent high-end words. They just say it how they know it.
Yeah.
And it felt so genuine.
Yeah.
And that's something that I look for in children actors, child actors. I loved it.
Yeah. I'm excited to break it down a little bit and talk more about it with you guys.
Sure.
So I believe this movie is streaming on Showtime Plus. So if you've got, I don't know if that's their streaming service. I know it just notes on Showtime.
Yeah.
So if you have that, you can stream it over there. If not, you can get it for rent or purchase it. I purchased. I think it's worthy
from
of
a friend.
Yeah, borrow a copy from a friend.
Yeah,
they borrowed it from
it.
me.
Yes, sir.
I think it's worthy of a purchase. It's in my collection, and
for sure,
it's something that I know I will continue to return to.
Yeah.
So, with that being said, this movie is about an uncle and a nephew. Uncle's name being Johnny, and the nephew's name being Jesse. And there comes up a situation where Jesse's mother, Vivian, or Viv, she has to go take care of some family issues, and it's not a place where she wants Jesse to be because there's a lot of traumatic things that are going on at the time, and she doesn't want Jesse to witness that stuff. And so she doesn't have anywhere for Jesse to go, so Johnny volunteers to come take care of him for a while. And slowly but surely it kind of turns into this like almost like road trip film where Johnny has to end up taking Jesse along with him on work to fly to these different places and interview children for his job, and doing certain journalism through either radio or through interviews for a radio station or a publication. I'm not entirely sure,
Mm-hmm.
but it turns into something that is, I think, really unique and insanely wholesome. And I'm sure you'll hear us say that word a lot this episode for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it's worthy of you guys checking it out. So if you haven't done so, go do so. There will be spoilers in the review as always. So if that's something that bothers you, or if you don't want to hear spoilers, go check the film out. Come back and hear what we have to say about it. And I think that's about it.
Yeah.
So,
Real quick, do you think you could do a job like that?
Yes,
I
it seems.
I think I
only
could.
ask.
I think I could, but when I think about, because there's a specific scene where Johnny starts recording a ton of questions he wants to ask.
Yes.
And I think about the questions that he's thinking of, and I started asking myself, because I think it'd be, first off, I just like talking to people and understanding they where they come from and how they think and how they see things and how they perceive the world and all this stuff. But I think if it came down to it, I feel like I wouldn't ask good questions.
No.
What's your favorite color?
Yeah,
no.
What'd you eat last night?
Honestly,
yeah,
though, but I thought about it, and I was like, if I were to do something like this, I would want to sit in a very public spot, at a table, and just have a mic and be we talk dumb things, but just have an open conversation, and then just get to know the person real quick, and then go straight to some very, very intimate questions.
I think that's one thing that who comes to mind is Andrew Callahan from Channel 5.
Yes.
He does a lot of it, very serious journalism, and he also does some comedic stuff as well. But the way he interviews people and gets such genuine responses out of people, it only makes me wish that I could do that more.
Yeah, 100%.
And he's able to fully sit down and have conversations with people that you would normally not speak to and fully understand them, and does it with no bias, no agenda or anything. And it's just I just want to get to know you.
That's legit something I've talked to one of my friends, one of my coworkers actually. He was like, what would you do that's not something you would do? And I said, I want to for example, River Park. I want to sit in River Park and hold a sign and just say, have a conversation with me. Talk to me. But I would never, I know I would never do it.
Yeah.
But
it's
I
scary.
want to.
You never know what's going to happen.
You don't.
Yeah.
But I just think about, you could change someone's day, maybe even week.
Yeah.
Just having a genuine conversation with them. Because a lot of people now I see don't have genuine conversations.
Yeah, it's a high and by type thing.
Yeah.
Or what are you doing?
Or it's just,
are you successful at what it is that you're doing?
Nothing
Exactly.
deep.
And it's kind of I'm good.
Or if you do have conversations, it's just with your inner circle.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice for people to have people who you don't know and just talk.
Yeah. And I think that's one thing that this movie really does well is it shows that people can still have those meaningful conversations with people they don't even know.
Exactly.
And it almost restores hope in humanity. And there are parts where you're kind of man, even kids see these problems.
Yeah.
And we need to start listening to them more. They're the future. We need to maybe sometimes just need to take a seat and see what they think for a little bit. And it kind of blew my mind because I was reading some of the reviews that people had for this movie on IMDb, and people were trashing on it because they were like, "Oh, these kids have no idea what they're talking about, and they shouldn't be thinking about these real life questions. They should be playing basketball and not worrying about this stuff and everything." And
I get the sentiment behind that. You don't want them to dive so deep into these heavy and harrowing topics, but
but at the same time,
that's life.
You treat them like people.
Yeah.
There's no reason for a kid to not have an opinion on something just because it's he should play basketball. It's no. Well, what do you think? I want to know what you think.
Yeah.
I think it just comes down to a genuine understanding for people. And I really enjoy that.
Yeah.
And I think that this is something that hits that this movie nails.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to bring up, that feeling of hopefulness. And with the introduction, there's a montage that goes on with him interviewing all these kids, and you get the the general sense of, because he always asks the question, you know, what do you think the future is going to be like, or you know, what do you have the exact question he asks?
Yeah, he just says,
Like, how do you feel about or how do you see your future?
Yeah, or what do you think the future is gonna look like?
Yeah,
or something like that.
And then they always respond with this like very hopeful tone.
Yeah,
and then you get this like awesome music in the background, and it just feels very inspirational.
Yes,
we haven't even got to our favorites to the category.
Well, this is my favorite scene.
Yeah, this is my favorite.
The
scene.
opening is beautiful, and I was doing laundry in the middle of the movie, and I said, "Shoot, I need to go switch my laundry." So I paused it, and Alexa was cooking dinner. And I said, "Dude, this movie is so beautiful." She goes, "Right?" And then I said, immediately from the title screen, I put it in, and I told Sai, I said, "Oh, this is gonna be a good movie." And he was like, "How do you know?" And I said, "Dude, just look at it already.
Yeah.
It's beautiful. It's so like, what's the word I want to use? Because there's nothing's happening in the title screen. It just looks."
It looks like purposeful.
Yeah, it looks like a movie with purpose.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah,
And
it was great. It's okay. No, I just wanted to bring it up because whenever I think about this movie, what I watched, it's like there's like glimpses of color. I'm not gonna lie,
but there's no black and white.
No, it's all black and white.
Sorry, there's no color.
There's no color. But whenever I think about it, like literally, as I was watching the movie, they say something that recalls back to the beginning, and I was like, oh, what happened then? And I saw the little like hues of her skin tone, of Viv's skin tone, and I was like, wait a second. And then I had to like remind myself that it's in black and white, and I was like, has it been in black and white this whole time? And I had to like catch myself.
I get you, and with the two scenes that I immediately think of color is the beach scene.
Yes.
And when they're in Louisiana during the parade.
That's so weird. Why is that?
I don't know.
It's so strange. I do think the black and white worked really well here.
Yeah, I think so
one
too.
number I told Alexa, I said, one of my favorite things is we never get modern day movies that are in black and white.
There's the rare exception.
Yeah.
Like, you know, this or The Lighthouse or that movie The Artist, or you know, it's very few. It's few and far between that a movie purposefully gets put in black and white.
And it works.
Yeah.
And this is 100% one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I have to say, I really do love the opening as well. I love that we immediately get thrown in, and we almost immediately get a feel for what it is that John does for a living. Like, we get this shot of him just asking himself questions, and he's kind of like, "What do you think the future will look like? You know, what it is that you're passionate. What is it that you're passionate about?" And you know, he's asking himself questions and rehearsing in a hotel room, and then we see him start interviewing kids, and he's asking them the same questions. And I like that you said, you know, it immediately brings you in with this tone of hopefulness, because these kids all have this like bright hope for what the future will be, and they're like, I think, you know, we're all going to come to a better understanding of everybody, and like eventually there will be like, you know, just this, you know, huge peace among people, because we will all have like, you know, lived similar lives, and we will all just be able to better understand one another.
Yeah.
And it's, I loved seeing these kids like be treated like adults, and seeing them have like genuine responses. And I also loved seeing how passionate John is about his job and what it is that he does. Yeah. And I feel like it just comes off like super, I don't know how to say this, but it comes off really well. Like
he was made for this job?
Yeah, like no. Like it comes off as like, this is Joaquin's job, and it's like almost like this is like a documentary.
It did.
And
it felt
like a documentary.
It wasn't scripted. It felt like this guy was genuinely going up to these kids and wanting to know more about them and get a consensus on how people feel, or how the youth of America feel about this certain question or something. And I also just loved being able to see these kids and what they think and what they see what the future will be like, and how they respond to these questions.
Some of the things that the kids say just makes you be like, whoa, I've never thought about it like this.
Yeah, and that's one thing too, is I love that you pointed that out, because there are some of the questions that get asked here, and I'm like, man, I haven't even thought about that.
Yeah, like it's weird because the question that they ask is, what do you think the future will be like? And we've always been asked, like, what do you see yourself in like 10, 20 years? but never like, what do you see the future is going to be like?
Yeah.
And I found myself thinking about that question throughout the whole movie.
Mm.
Like, 50 years from now, I'll be what, 70 something?
Yeah.
How's the world going to look?
Yeah.
Mm.
And I just thought about it, of like how far advanced technology would be.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy.
Where on Earth would I be?
Mm-hmm.
And some of these kids answered the question, were like, well, I hope it's going to be cleaner, maybe,
Yeah.
and it'll be better than it is now. And I was like, holy cow. I never
Yeah.
would have thought of that.
Yeah.
I know. I like that the kids don't get bogged down by their own thoughts, and they're
Mhm.
like, well, I don't really know. You know what I mean? But they just immediately come out and they just spew all of this like hope out of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
It's almost like they just can't like help it.
Yeah. They have this almost like curiosity for life.
Yeah.
And they don't know, but they're like, I hope that it will be like this,
Yeah.
or I think it will be like this. And I don't know, hearing that just, I don't know, it brings something up in me where I'm just like, I hope that too.
Yeah.
You know, like,
Seriously.
like,
really.
you know, like I want that to come to fruition.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Especially because recently I've been feeling more logical, and I don't really mean like analytical, like a robot, but I feel like it always leads me down a path where it's just like, yeah, but that'll never happen. Like if I'm being realistic here, it's not going to happen. Or I can think about all these great things, but realistically, this is how it's going to come. And there's always like it could be good, but it really won't be. And I don't get a sense of that here with these kids. They really genuinely feel like, yeah, it could be good. Like
yeah.
you just got to be, willing.
Be hopeful,
Mhm.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
another thing that I really enjoyed, which it's Joaquin Phoenix. Obviously, he's great, but I think he carries along this like, it almost feels like he has like this, like he's carrying something with him, like a weight. Like before we even know what his whole deal is with his past relationships and all that, he just feels like he's like carrying something heavy with him.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Just with his whole scruff and I just feel like
His
there's
demeanor.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's something deeper about him, and that's just because he's a great actor and he's bringing that out with just his subtleties,
Yeah.
which I really enjoyed. And I like that he's like really old because he's got all this white hair and he's
Yeah.
contrasted with the youth,
Mhm.
and it was very nice to see like an older guy trying to connect, trying
Yeah.
to learn more about youth, because
Mhm.
normally that's like a point of where the old people can't get connected with the youth because
Yeah.
either the youth is too crazy or the youth don't want
Yeah.
nothing to do with us. And it was
Yeah.
just a beautiful
Yeah, that reminds me
picture.
of that Bob Dylan song. That's the times they are changing. There he has a lyric where he says, "Don't criticize what you can't understand. Your sons and your daughters are beyond your command. Your old road is rapidly aging. Please get out of the new one if you can't lend your hand. For the times they are changing."
Yeah. It felt like that. It
Yeah.
felt very much like a man
Yeah,
carrying all this baggage and weight and then seeing what he once was.
yeah,
Yeah. I liked it a lot.
yeah. My next favorite scene is a scene that I don't know. It felt very intimate to me, and it's something that like I got really excited about, and it made me smile and made me like happy inside, because I can only imagine what it will be like to show my kids things that I liked when I was a kid,
Mm.
and then seeing them get excited about those things.
Oh, you're talking about the
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it's the first time that Johnny shows Jesse how the mic and the recorder works. And they have this intimate little moment where he's like, "Oh yeah, this is your gain and this is your, your volume levels and all this stuff." And he's like, "Here, put these on." He puts the headphones on him and shows him how the mic works.
Dude.
And he's like, "Can you hear me?" And he's like, "Whoa, yeah, I can hear you." And everything that's being heard is the actual audio from the mic that they're using. And that was one thing that I loved in the movie. When it was, I actually like verbally when I watched it in theater, I saw them like using the mic and stuff and everything, and I verbally said like, "Please let them use the audio from this." And then you hear the audio get like hecka boosted because Jesse goes, "Hello," and like it's really like close to the mic, and the gain like peaks, and you hear it intentionally like get super loud.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Okay, how about this?"
You
And he turns like the faders down real quick, and he's like, "Oh, now it's really quiet."
Yeah.
And I was just like, I love that they decided to use this. Like, it
Yeah.
felt so intentional, and it just reminded me that like, a lot of things get used for like props, in movies, and then they get forgotten about. It's just a prop. But this like actually had use, and like they were like, no, let's actually use this to record our audio with for this scene, and I just really enjoyed that. And then on the note of like it being an intimate moment with one another, it's I don't know, I kind of get this same feeling because I show my niece and nephew things that I like, and seeing them get interested in those things puts a happiness in me that like I can't describe. Like recently my niece and nephew stayed the night with us, and growing up I used to love watching this Batman animated series that came out in the 90s. And I also loved watching Tom and Jerry as a kid. And I was like, we woke up Saturday morning, and as a kid, you know, Saturday morning I was like, dude, I used to always watch like Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry and all these old cartoons with my dad.
Yeah.
And I loved them. And like I still love Tom and Jerry. Like they're classic cartoons. And these kids haven't even seen them. Yeah. And so I got the opportunity to show them this stuff. And then, you know, I put it on and they're watching it and they're having a good old time. They're laughing. They're asking me to play the next episode. And it just puts this thing in me where I'm like, they're liking it. And like this is something that I loved as a kid and now they're liking it. And that just, it made me feel good. And I felt like I got to see that replicated on screen so genuinely. And it made me love the scene.
For sure. Yeah, man.
Sorry, I didn't want to step on what it was that you were saying.
No, you're good. Talk all you want. This is a great movie. My next favorite scene, of course the beginning is my first favorite scene, but my next favorite scene is very small, but it's the orphan and the dead children scene.
Oh, okay.
And I like
this
it.
one's a bro moment.
Yeah, for me
it is
too.
a bro moment.
The mom goes, you gotta get used to
that.
it.
You're gonna have to get used to this thing.
He's like, what are you talking about?
He's like, that's messed up.
It is messed up. But so a little, basically, Jesse and Viv they're living alone at this time in the movie, without his dad. And she goes, oh yeah, there's an orphan that visits me. He likes to act like an orphan, and that likes to ask questions about my dead children. And I was like, what?
So, very, very normal child here.
and Jesse, no.
Viv?
No.
Johnny.
I don't know why I couldn't think of it. Johnny was like, really? And she was like, yeah, you got to get used to it if you're going to watch him. He's probably going to do it to you. But the reason why I like it is just you see the connection that Viv and Jesse share.
It ends up being so wholesome.
And it's so wholesome because you get to see a little peek at his person. We're not fully cracked into Jesse yet. Mm-hmm. And you see a little bit of his personality, and he's just peeking, ready to shine through. And I just loved it. Yeah. Because he...
it ends up being so cute.
Yeah.
Like, he's like, the orphanage doesn't have any beds, and I saw that, you know, maybe you have a kid, and I could sleep in his bed tonight. Yeah. And she's like, oh, well, it just so happens my kid isn't here tonight, and I think he has a bed that might be your size. Mm-hmm. And he's like,
it's so
he's
cute.
Like, maybe I could replace him for the night. And she's like, okay, let's go see. Mm-hmm. And it just ends up being so cute.
Yes, and I love it because in the beginning when Jesse and Johnny get introduced, Jesse's so shy. Doesn't want to say like very like hello.
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, he's standing at the door
he's standing like he's so shy. He doesn't know this man.
Yeah.
And then you finally see him peeking through, and I just was cheesing the whole time.
Yeah.
And that's why I wrote it down, because I was just smiling from cheek to cheek, and I was loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that one too. My next one is also very, very tiny, and I think it's a little down the ways. It's when they've already had a really pretty strong relationship, and it's a very small scene when they start to wrestle with each other.
Okay, that's what I have one before that.
Okay,
it's so precious.
Yes.
I love it. But mine's also a very small one. And again, I was just cheesing because I was hopeful for it. And it's when Viv calls and says that Jesse can go to New York. Mm-hmm. And we get, before that, probably like 5 minutes, we find out that Johnny had told Jesse, like, hey, like, if this were to happen, would you be okay with that? And he goes, I would love for that to happen. He would love to go to New York with Johnny. And I was like, and I told Sal, I said, oh, I hope he gets to go back to New York with him. Mm-hmm. Because obviously, Viv is I think she's in Oakland, yes. She's in Oakland helping out with Jesse's dad. And he's just having some troubles. And finally, Johnny calls Viv and was like, hey, like, if this were to happen, like, are you okay with it? And she freaks out, which is the perfect response to it. Like, if you get told, I'm going to take your kid to New York, like, across the country, dude.
Seriously.
I would respond the same way, and then she finally calls back, and I was like, oh, she's coming back home. She's gonna take Jesse, and she goes, if this were to happen, can you find someone to take care? And immediately Johnny steps up and is like, yes, of course, like I will make it happen. He's gonna get taken care of. And again, I was cheesing. I was like, yes, like I love this already, and it's just so small. I know it's a small scene, but I loved it.
Yeah.
I loved it.
Yeah. That leads to my another.
It does lead to yours.
Very. I don't know why I liked it so much. I think it's because like I've been there with my nephew when we just like you just get so invested in a character and you just don't care. You get to be silly and who cares? You know, it's you and your nephew.
You're making memories.
Yeah, you're making memories, and he. I don't know how it starts. I think it starts with Jesse saying like.
Yeah, he does some sort of wrestler thing.
Yeah, this whole wrestling persona and like jumps on him and he goes, oh, and then
He's
Johnny's
like, you
like,
haven't even seen.
Because you gotta let me do mine.
he's like, you
introduction.
gotta let me get mine in there. And he gets up and he's just being a fool, dude. He's just like,
Doesn't even say words.
No.
It's,
You messing with the wrong guy, bro.
yeah. And it just was so wholesome to see these two just bonding in such a genuinely wholesome way.
Yeah.
I absolutely loved it. And this is one of the moments where I did think about my relationship with my nephew. I was like, I've done stupid crap like that.
Yeah.
Just because.
I constantly do. Anytime I'm around my niece and nephew, we're always playing and tickling each other and, flopping them on the bed and, just messing around and having a good time. And, that's what, that's part of building relationships and having fun with these kids.
Yeah, and those, I feel like when you get those moments with your niece or nephew or your sibling or whatever, your cousins, whatever, I feel like they're going to remember those the most.
Oh, yeah.
And I think about it with your nephew, Alex, because I mess around with him sometimes too, and I would pick him up and throw him in the air.
Yeah.
And at first he was like scared,
Mm-hmm.
and then now that's all I do when I see him. When I first see him, I'll pick him up and throw him up in the air.
Yeah.
And so it's cute to see him, Jesse and Johnny have that, and then I know Jesse further on in life is gonna be like, "Hey, you remember when you did that to me? Like I remember that."
Yeah.
I'm cheesing because there's one specific thing I do with my nephew Alex. When it'll be just at random times, I'll go, "Hey, what is that? You got something in your ear?" And he'll look at me and he'll go, "What?" He'll turn his head and I'll like pull on his little earlobe and I'll have a little thing hidden here and I'll pull it out and I'll go, "How'd you get this there?" And he'd go, "That was in my ear." And it seems like an old grandpa thing to do, but I want him to
remember that.
Yeah, to remember this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something that you can't even explain it. It's just a relationship.
Yeah. It's weird too how thinking about those things that we do, like for the younger generation, like to show them that we care, that we love them. We also, I would assume have had those things done to us.
Yeah.
We, with other, uncles or grandparents or something like that. Like I know, like with my Uncle Ryan, like he was the fun uncle, and he was always the guy that was like, let's go play hide and seek. Let's go play tag at nighttime. Like, let's go dig in the dirt and, do all this stuff. And as a kid, I have all these great memories with him because he was always the one to be like, yeah, let's go run around and act crazy and all this stuff. And like, I have great memories with him because of that.
Dude.
And like, having that in my life makes me want to do that for other kids. So that way they can have those memories to look back on and be like, hey, you remember whenever we used to hang out and play hide and seek, and we would wrestle and do all this stuff, and like that's the kind of stuff that I love.
I have my very like best core memory that I have with my uncles, and my uncles from Mexico. It was the first time I went to Mexico. I was 10 years old. It was just my dad and I. It was New Year's Eve. I remember my uncle gave me a firework called a barreno, basically a firecracker, but it's the size probably of like a regular size jalapeno. And they're huge. They're super thick, and they're like, I want to say like that long. And he goes, hey, throw it at your Uncle Nacho. And my tío Juan. I was like, really? He goes, yeah, this is how you do it. Just throw it at him. And I did it, and I remember that I threw it, and it landed right by his legs, that he jumped and hit his head on the door frame. and then I went back in Mexico in like 2019. I said, hey, you remember when I had that? And we were just started belly laughing. That's like, so like things like that I remember. So I get you.
Yeah.
That's why the whole quote at the end when he goes like, "Oh, you probably won't remember this, but I will, and I'll remind you."
Yeah.
It hits so much harder because I think it's relatable for all of us.
Yeah.
Where it's like, even if you have some core memories, but there's memories that you've forgotten, but you remember the feeling of it being there. You remember the laughing and the pure love there, and it's those things that we hold on to.
Yes. Most definitely.
Which is why I love this wrestling scene. I think it was just a perfect and pure example of that kind of relationship.
Yeah. One of the other scenes that I loved here was a scene in New York where Jesse and Johnny go to get pizza.
Yes.
Oh, that's a big bro moment.
And it was when he was asking him the questions. Yeah, I like this one too.
I liked the flipping of the script on John.
And he would ask us like, "Why are you alone?"
Yeah, yeah. And I enjoyed this because it starts out, the questions and everything, they start out funny and jovial, and they, are kind of just having a good time with one another. But then all of a sudden Jesse gets real serious and real deep. And I think that's something that only a kid can do.
And get away with.
And get away with, because kids have no filter whatsoever.
No.
You know how many times I've been asked by my niece and nephew, like the most hard-hitting questions out of nowhere, and then me being just like, well, this is how it kind of goes, and I have to kind of sit there and try to explain.
You gotta BS your way out of it like he did.
Yeah. Exactly. And I loved the flipping of the script on Johnny, and I feel like he's the guy that does all the question asking, but he never gets to answer.
Yeah. Well, what is that? There's always those funny quotes of you always ask
They always ask me how you do, not what you do.
Yeah.
Or what you doing. They always ask what you doing, not how you doing.
Yeah, and just sitting there crying. It reminds me of that.
Yeah.
An old man never being asked, "Hey, how are you?"
Yeah, exactly.
So I love that scene, but I put it down as bro moment because it's actually the first scene where I actually cried.
Oh, okay.
Because he asked so much hard questions, and the question that he asked was, "Do you think I'm gonna end up like my father?"
Yeah.
And now finding out his father has.
He's bipolar.
He's bipolar and he has some
you
mental
read that
issues.
story.
Yeah.
I was curious too. I was like, is this supposed to be this on the nose? Is this for the audience? Because we don't know anything about the father.
No.
Other than we get to see really happy scenes of him and his kid.
Yeah.
But then obviously
we see the bad stuff too.
The bad stuff.
We see. So we find out a little about his father, and then seeing him ask that question, and it seems so genuine that he was thinking, am I gonna end up like him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's what made me tear up.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so young, you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And that's what made me think, because there's so many kids where I see in our city who are who have parents like that, and I hate to say it.
Yeah.
And they ask themselves those questions.
Mm-hmm.
Am I gonna end up like this? And it just hurts to see that.
Yeah.
And I think I love Johnny and Jesse so much already, and I think that's only halfway in the film.
Yeah.
That it hurt me to hear him say that, and I think that's why I cried.
It's good.
So that's why I put it down as a bro moment.
Yeah, very wholesome. Very, very wholesome.
Any other favorite scenes for you guys?
I have two. I have a note for one because it's one of when they're in Louisiana, he does an interview with a kid, and it made me cheese. It made me smile.
Okay.
And so I just put down as a favorite scene. I truly do like the interviews with the kids because it makes me smile and it makes me happy.
Yeah.
They get heavier and more prevalent as you go on throughout the movie.
Yes.
Especially when he gets to New Orleans and you get to see all of the kids. And I love the scenes too where it's he's reading out of a book or something.
Yes.
And it's a bunch of different books.
Monologues or excerpts from different books that get read throughout the film.
Yeah, and there's one that talks, it specifically highlights why it's so important to give kids their space. And it's because it gives kids a space for them to feel like they're heard and to feel like they're seen and to give them an opportunity to say things that actually mean something.
Yeah.
And I think that's what he's giving to them, which I thought was awesome.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
My next favorite scene is whenever Jesse and Johnny are originally supposed to leave New York. Jesse's supposed to go back to L.A., and he doesn't originally want to because of the whole incident with the toothbrush. And so we believe that Johnny and Jesse are on their way to the airport to go to drop him off, and he has to fly to L.A. by himself back to his mom, and then Johnny's going to go to Louisiana to do more of his work. And Jesse, they're in a cab, and Jesse's just all of a sudden says, "I've got to go poop." He's like, oh, "Okay, can you hold it? Like, we're almost we got to get to the airport." And he's like, "No, I can't hold it. I have to go now." And he's just like, "Are you serious? You can't hold it?" And he's like, "I have to go now." And he's like, "Okay, can you pull over?" And they pull off to this random restaurant, and Jesse just like runs to the bathroom and locks himself in there. And at that point, he's like kind of in there for like a couple of minutes, and he's like, "Okay, hurry it up. Like, we got to go to the airport." And Jesse just says, "No." And then Johnny comes to the realization. He's like, "Do you even have to go?" And he says, "No." And he goes, "You see Johnny go, 'Oh man, oh,
like,
you
got
me,
you got
me."
yeah.
He's like, "Get out of there now."
Yeah.
And I started laughing at this part just because I've been there.
Yeah.
Like, I've been in those situations where I'm like, you don't even have to do what you said you had to do, and I stopped what we were doing so you could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, and I'd be like,
You got.
get out of there.
Yeah.
Like, get out of there now. Yeah. And I'm just, yeah, I've been in
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
yeah. I've been in that situation before, and I just thought that was super funny.
Yeah,
how it was portrayed, and that just.
I've never been in a situation like that, but I genuinely feel like people do that now.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I feel like kids know something's up, and they will just try to prolong what is the inevitable.
Yeah, and this is what I love too about this scene is that it originally is something funny, and then it turns into something like this really tender moment between uncle and nephew. And he's like, "Listen, like, I don't want the toothbrush to be the reason that I'm leaving. Yeah. I like being with you, and I don't want to go yet.
Yeah.
Like when I go with my parents, like back with my mom, it's just gonna be like I.
Do you think
like
that's the reason?
there.
Real quick, do you think it's the reason for the toothbrush? I thought it was because nobody can watch him in Louisiana.
No, so it was originally because what I thought was that Johnny got scared that he was going to lose Jesse, so he was like, "Okay, you got to go back with your mom. I can't do this anymore. Like, I can't handle it."
We're both wrong. It was when they're in the middle of the street talking about Louisiana and he disappeared.
That's one of my bro moments.
Yes.
Sure.
That's not.
And then he was going to send him back.
Yes.
Because of that.
Yeah, we were both wrong.
And yeah, Jesse and Johnny end up having this tender moment where he's like, "Listen, if I go," Johnny basically said, or Jesse basically says, like, "If I go back home, like, things are just going to be the same." And like,
and you could tell he doesn't want to go home.
Yeah, and he's like, "And I don't want to go home. I want to be here. I want to be with you."
Mm-hmm.
And they have this tender moment where Jesse and Johnny eventually just come to the realization that he's gonna go to Louisiana with him too.
Mm-hmm.
And
I was so happy.
He he's like, "Okay, stay right there," and he tells the cab to go. He packs his bags. He brings them into the restaurant. And he's like, "Okay, well, we got to go back now.
Yep.
Like, we need to go tell your mom what's going on." And then they end up going to Louisiana after that.
Yeah,
together.
Man, and I'm glad you brought these scenes up because it shows how Jesse kind of deals with the problems in his life. And there's a scene where Johnny calls his mom, calls Viv, and he's like, like, "What's going on? I can't do all this." And it was that time where he got on the bus, and she explains to him, like, he doesn't really know how to, like, say what he's doing is he's trying to show it to you in a way that he can't really say it.
Yeah.
Like, he's trying to gain control because he has no control in his life otherwise. That's why he's doing all these things. And she has to explain it to him because Jesse really can't. You know what I mean? He's just acting in a little kid way because that's how he's trying to show his emotions.
Yeah.
And we get a bunch of scenes like that of him having to go poop but not really and all that stuff. But I really enjoyed the scene where, they've been in New Orleans, they've been having a great time together, and then it's when Viv calls and says that she's coming to pick them up. And I really, really enjoyed this scene because they're on the phone, he's on speaker, and Jesse is like, "Here, take the phone. I can't take the phone. Take the phone." Yeah, this is more towards the end if you have anything.
This is my last favorite scene, so yeah.
Okay, yeah. So he gives him back the phone and runs off, and Viv is like, "Jesse, where are you, Jesse?" And they hang up, and he goes out, and he goes, "Hey, how you feeling?" he goes, I'm fine. And he goes,
Oh, I love that.
and he starts to try to open up a space to say, it's okay if you're not fine.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a completely reasonable response. It's one of my favorite quotes where he says, I'm not fine, and that's a totally reasonable response. And they both just have this very tender moment together where he allows Jesse to be completely and totally vulnerable.
Yeah.
And to just sit there and just go, if you want to scream, then you want to kick the dirt, then do it. And they start to cuss. And usually it's like, whoa, you're not supposed to do that. But it's just,
He's all, I'm fucking upset.
yeah, I'm not okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It just felt really good. If I were to get emotional, it would have been at this moment.
Yeah.
Because you get to really see how valuable Johnny is to Jesse and just how much he's been carrying with the whole him having to deal with his dad and his mom situation.
Yeah.
That's where I started to get emotional.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. And I just I love to see, it's again one of those moments where I bet you Jesse will never forget.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where he's like, I was able to just scream and yell and
And
he
not
was
get in
doing it the
trouble.
same with me.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay.
I felt understood.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
That's a
yes,
good way
yes.
to put it.
Yeah.
Oh,
I put the scene because Jesse called it some way, and I've said going in the zone because I forget how he describes it. The word that he says.
oh yeah, and you have to like juggle your rocks or
throw
Oh,
your
he's
rocks.
like meditative state. He's
Yeah.
like, he's like, try tapping your fingers
Throw your
or
rocks.
throwing your rocks.
And I love it because
or breathe.
Johnny goes,
Yeah.
"Why throwing rocks?" Like,
Yeah.
and then I was like, "Man, that really does distract your mind. If you try to throw rocks in your hand,
Yeah.
it distracts your mind." And that scene that Nick brought up, I was like, they're in that zone.
Yeah.
They're in that meditative state, and they're just letting loose and letting go of their emotions.
Yeah.
And I loved it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought it up.
Yeah.
It was one of my favorite ones.
Yeah. So I have two more. One of the second to last favorite scene that I have is, I believe after they go back, Johnny reads Jesse this book called Star Child.
Mm-hmm.
And I just loved this whole montage and sequence that's paired together really well with this excerpt from this book. And this whole scene just made me appreciate like everything there is about life, whether that be the good or the bad, and just how infinitesimal everything feels.
Yeah.
And a little excerpt from the book, it says, to visit planet Earth, you have to be born as a human child. At first, you'll have to learn how to use your new body, to move your arms and legs, to pull yourself upright. You'll learn how to walk and run, to use your hands and to make sounds and form words. Slowly, you'll learn to take care of yourself. Here, it is still peaceful, but they're I think this is worded differently. It says, here it is still peaceful, but there the colors, sensations, and sounds will wash over you constantly. You'll see so many living things, plants and animals beyond imagining. Here it is always the same, but there everything is in motion. Everything is always changing. You'll be plunged into Earth's river of time. There will be so much for you to learn and so much for you to feel. Pleasure and fear, joy and disappointment, sadness and wonder. And in your confusion and delight, you will forget where you came from. You'll grow up, you'll travel, and you'll work. Perhaps you'll have children, even grandchildren of your own. Over the years, you will try to make sense of that happy, sad, full, empty, always shifting life that you're in. And when the time comes to return to your star, it may be hard to say goodbye to that strangely beautiful world.
Mm-hmm. That world you were so scared to go to.
Yeah, and that was something that just, it made tears well up, man.
Yeah.
The whole time I was just like...
Even afterwards too, doesn't he go, damn this book?
Yeah, yeah, and then
Even-
he starts crying, and then Jesse's like, "Are you crying?" And he's all, "It's just so true. It's true." And he's all, "No, you can't cry." And then he's like, "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You're
Yeah.
the stupidest person. Stupid." And he's like, "You're," or he says, "That's very stupid. You're just the stupid person ever. Like you have the lesser brain capacity than an actual deceased dead person."
That's
has.
one of my favorite quotes. When he said that, I was like, this is what a kid would say.
Yeah.
This is a kid way of saying this.
Yeah.
You know who I thought about when, I don't know if I can say their name on the pod. It's can I say it?
Dude, it's in your own brain. You got to make that
Taylor.
decision.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought of Taylor
Okay.
when he said that.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
I was like, man, that's something Taylor would say.
Yeah, for sure. But I just love that this small moment they share at the end of the story, and how it kind of becomes like that almost like akin to like the wrestling scene, where they just have this like moment of playfulness together, and they're just kind of like, oh, I'm stupid. Oh, I'm not stupid. And, and they have this fun time together after they just read this like really good book.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, honorable mention before we get to the very end. I really enjoyed the scene where he's again acting like an orphan, and he goes, is there anything you'd like to ask me about my family? Or is there any other deeper questions you'd like to ask me? And he asks him about, hey, like, oh, how are your parents like? And he starts to go and describe his mom. Mm-hmm. And I freaking loved it. Because like he had all of these intricate knowledge of his mom and how she acts. Like when she's feeling overwhelmed and like annoyed with life, she just cooks herself a steak and eats it.
Yeah.
And like the whole time we're getting this montage of his mom or her seeing Viv being completely engaged with her son.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was a beautiful way to show just being a mother.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, most definitely. But lastly,
this is all we've been waiting for.
Is the ending.
This is like the emotional impact I was waiting for.
Yeah. This is the ending is my last favorite scene.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely the scene that makes me cry. It's just so wholesome seeing Jesse say that John is his best friend. And I also just love how they try to keep in touch with one another. They record messages and email them back and forth. And it's just something that's, it's almost like sending letters, but, for the modern age. Yeah. And I just love every minute of it. I love seeing John and them send those messages back and forth, and them talking about how, Jesse might not remember all of their trip, but John will remember every bit of it. Mm-hmm. And that, if he ever forgets, he'll be there to remind him. Yeah. And it was like when I heard that, I would just immediately just started like, that was when the tears actually started falling. And I was just like,
yeah,
it's so cute. I love it.
Yeah, mine too. We've gotten through every one of my best quotes, honestly. The last one being, I'll remind you of everything.
Mm. Yeah. I found the script online.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now.
The final draft
for one of my
favorite.
Script. Yeah.
Yeah, and I took the whole block of text that they had at the end.
81 pages.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm on the same thing. Because there's one specific thing that they talk about mothers that we'll get into in the next category. But
and at the end of it, John says, I had to go back to New York, and I asked you to come with me. And you just said, I'd love that. And you couldn't sleep, and you were talking a mile a minute, and you had so many things to say, and I could never actually stop you. And I kept trying, and I wish I wouldn't have. Mm-hmm. And then he says, I want to hear all your crazy thoughts and your cool ideas. And then we were in bed, and you asked me, are you going to remember any of this? And I said, what? And then you said that you won't. I said, you won't. I'll remember this, believe me. And then Jesse said, I won't remember. And John said, and I said, I hope you do. And you got so upset. So I said, I'd remind you of everything. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's love it.
Yeah, I love it.
Beautiful. Ending.
Greatest way to end it. Honestly, it was a perfect send off. Yeah. To those characters, because you want to think like, oh, he's gonna be around, like they're gonna move out to New York, or he's gonna go down there. But no, they still keep in touch in the ways that their lives allow. Yeah, which I loved.
Yeah. But if that's it for the favorite scenes, let's go ahead and get into best quotes.
Yeah. You guys took most of mine, so I only have one left. And the one that I have is just one that I caught from an interview. And this girl was saying, I forget the question that Johnny asked, but her response was, just because someone isn't like you doesn't mean they are wrong. Mm. And I think a lot of people need to hear that today. Yeah. And so that's why I wrote it down, because I was like, that's so true. We're so one-minded.
And it's coming from a kid.
It's coming from a kid. like, and us adults need to hear that. Yeah. And so I heard that and I said, damn.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, most definitely.
For sure, man.
The only two quotes that we have not talked about, these were ones that I picked up like while watching the movie. Mm. One of the quotes that I had was that last block of text. For sure. But the first one I have written down comes from an interaction from Johnny and Jesse. And Johnny asks Jesse, why not do something normal? And Jesse says, what's normal?
Yeah.
Goes,
you got me.
All right, fine. Good point.
Yeah, exactly. Good point. There's nothing normal.
Yeah. And then another one comes from Jesse, and they have this kind of back and forth where Johnny says, like, I know what you're feeling or something like that. And Jesse says, my feelings are inside me. You don't know what they are. Mm-hmm. And it was just kind of like, yeah, it's true. And it's insane that a kid has to, like, explain that to you.
Yeah.
You know, he's like, you don't know how I'm feeling. Those feelings are mine, not yours.
Mhm.
You know. So
Yeah. The last quote I have is when Johnny finds a book, and the book is titled "Mothers: An Essay on Love and Cruelty."
Mm.
And I love, it goes in like talks about motherhood and how that relates to like the hardest parts of life. And
Yeah.
there's one last quote that I thought was beautiful. It says, "What are we doing to mothers when we expect them to carry the burden of everything that is hardest to contemplate about our society and ourselves?" It says, "Mothers cannot help but be in touch with the most difficult aspects of any fully lived life. Why on earth should it fall on them to paint things bright and innocent and safe?"
Yeah.
And I was like, so true.
Yeah.
Like, they're there to repair all damages in this world.
Yeah.
And not only that, but now they have to do it in like, oh, but the world is great and all this
Yeah.
stuff. And
And sometimes it's not that way.
it's not. And it shouldn't fall strictly to them to be like,
to repair everything.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that, and I was like, geez, whenever I, decide to become a father,
yeah.
I need to, this is some of the burden that I have to take on.
Yeah.
So I saw that and I was like, man, this is awesome.
Yeah.
It's good.
Any other best quotes?
That's it for me.
Okay.
I'm not fine.
Let's get into I'm not fine. Any other bra moments that we haven't talked about?
Yeah, there's a couple.
There's a couple that we talked about. Haven't talked about, and one of them is I just put, bro, I want to be loud on Saturdays,
Yeah.
He's like,
Playing
it's
that.
Saturday. I get to be loud on Saturday.
and he's just playing like some Mozart
Yeah.
music, and he's just blasting it,
Yeah.
The fact that she just left,
Yeah.
dude. Yeah,
he's like, I was surprised that she left without a word, pretty much.
Yeah.
She just was gone.
Yeah.
I have another one when they go to the parade and he freaking like passes out.
Faints.
Yeah. He faints.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I
Do you
don't
think it's
know.
just
I don't know what that's trying to
exhaustion?
show.
I don't know. Maybe just
Yeah.
the anxiety of being around everybody or something.
Yeah.
I'm not
Well,
entirely sure.
It's also a nice parallel because, when we get to see Johnny and his freak out when he loses Jesse.
Mm-hmm.
And now Jesse's like,
I need to be here for Johnny. Now.
Yeah, well, and you get to see like his worry. So maybe it was just a cool parallel to see like, oh, Johnny has this responsibility and he has this, connection to Jesse that he feels that Jesse probably doesn't understand right away.
Mm-hmm.
And then now Jesse's like, oh wait, I actually like this guy. I don't want to lose him.
Yeah.
He's fainting. Like he could be dying for all I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So maybe it was to show like just how deep their connection got.
Yeah. Maybe. I like that.
Go ahead.
No go.
No, you're fine.
So mine was Jesse actually getting the toothbrush.
Oh, dude, no,
Yeah,
literally.
Yeah.
What was it saying?
It was like, I'm a funky brush or something like that. I was laughing.
I didn't expect him to get it.
And the reason I thought it was so funny was because Jesse doesn't pack his toothbrush when they go to New York, so they got to go to the store to buy one.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, like we're just here to get a toothbrush and toothpaste, so let's just go out and get here. And Jesse, of course, sees this like electric toothbrush that sings a song whenever
Dude,
you do
I used
it.
to want one of
And
those
he's
when I
like,
was little.
no,
and he's
bro,
like,
you're
he's
not
like, he's like,
getting
no,
that.
listen, you don't need that. He's all soon enough, like you're gonna need an electronic stimuli for like everything you do in life, and enough kids your generation have that already. Like you just need a plain toothbrush to brush your teeth, and that's it.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Jesse disappears, and he like runs throughout the store, and Johnny starts getting freaked out, and then all of a sudden, Jesse like thinks it's a game, and appears out of the corner. He's like, "Oh, I got you," and Johnny yells at him, and is like, "You can't do that! Like you worried me. You had me scared. You cannot run off like that."
Yells at
And
him.
Jesse gets mad too, and he's like, "Get off of me!" And they have this like their first fight almost. And we get this scene where Johnny and Viv are on the phone, and she's like, he's like, "I'm sorry, but I yelled at him. Like he scared me." And he's like, "Listen, you just got to tell him that. You got to tell him like, hey, like I'm sorry that I freaked out, but you scared me."
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with being scared or anything like that, and I'm sorry for yelling at you, and I'm sorry that was my response, but you can't go off like that anymore. It's very frightening,
Yeah.
and I don't want to lose you, and
Yeah.
I only got scared because I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, he goes into this apology, and then all of a sudden Jesse starts to brush his teeth, and you hear, "I'm a funky brush." It starts going off, and it's like, he got the toothbrush.
got
Are
it
you
for
kidding
him.
me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I asked myself a question. I guess I answered at the end. For a while, I thought Jesse was on the spectrum,
Oh, okay.
the way he was acting.
Mm.
But then come to the conclusion, I think he's just weird.
Yeah, he's
He's
just
just a weird
he's
kid.
different.
Yeah, I mean, he's in a really tough situation.
Yeah, he's
He doesn't seem to have much
So
friends.
and I put it
Yeah.
in a moment because I was like, bro, is he in the spectrum and
Well, he
nobody's
doesn't
doing
he
anything?
even-
he even says like I don't have many friends. Most people hang out with are adults.
Yeah.
So and like I said, I answered it myself.
Diagnosed.
What?
No, go ahead.
And then a bro moment was just the kids in their interview.
Yeah.
And I said
Okay.
kids have such a different view of the world. I wish I could see it in their eyes today.
Yeah.
Because
I like
obviously
that.
I feel like if we were a kid right now, we would see the world differently than we see it now.
Yeah.
As us.
We'd be talking about Fortnite.
Fortnite.
$19 Fortnite.
Yeah.
Who wants it?
Yeah. Yeah. The last one that I have is obviously Jesse walking off while John's on the phone.
Dude.
And I remember watching this in theaters and getting like,
Because you watch him walk away and you're like,
yeah, and
Bro.
and you see him just disappear into the crowd of people, and you're kind of like, he's gone. That's it. Like, where did he go? And you start to get that worry that Johnny gets.
Oh,
and
I
he's
was-
just kind of like, Jesse.
and he finds the kid and it's not him too.
Yeah,
You're like,
and you're kind of
"Oh,
like,
no."
oh, dude, he's
And
gone.
it sucks too because like you would think that okay, he left, but I'm gonna stay here because he knows I was here.
Yeah.
But then he leaves to see if he finds him, and then now like he could be anywhere,
Yeah,
and there's no safe spot, and then yeah, it sucks.
yeah,
It also too. What about like as he finds him? And he gets on the thing and he goes, "You left me." And he goes, I didn't leave you. You left me." He's
Yeah.
like, and then he starts calling him a bad uncle. Like, "Oh, you're horrible."
yeah. You lost me.
Yeah. And I was like,
Yeah,
that sucks. That's
Yeah.
got to be a bro moment for
Yeah.
sure.
yeah. But that's it for bro moments for me.
Yeah, that's it for me.
My last one was when Viv was picking him up and he goes, he goes like, "Well, no screen time on weekdays," and he's like trying to, he's trying to be sarcastic
Yeah.
and saying like, "Oh, you're taking my kid. This is
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is the rules you got to follow." And
Yeah,
yeah, I thought that was funny.
yeah, most definitely. Well, if that's it for the bro moments, let's get into some facts.
Yeah, let me hit you with the budget, and I'm very upset about it.
$2.
No. So it took
It's me.
$8.3 million to make it. I mean, not that much.
Smaller film.
Smaller film, of course, smaller budget. Opening weekend, it only made $134,000.
Mm.
Gross for U.S. and Canada made $1.8 million,
Oof.
and gross for worldwide only made $4.4 million. So
Oof.
this is considered a flop.
Yeah. Box office flop.
And
that's
I
the thing
hate
that
it.
sucks, man. It's
black and white.
It's such.
That's
yeah.
not the reason. No, if you think it's the reason, that's
It
I'm
probably
gonna tell you-
wasn't the reason. I didn't go to
just-
the movies to see it though. I'm
No.
not sure why I didn't.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I think it ended up being such a wholesome movie that I wish everybody could experience. And
what
I,
movies came out in
and I th-
November 21.
I don't know.
This was like it's tough because
It was a weird year because that was like the year where like things started to randomly start to reopen, and
but there's still like
movie theaters.
delays.
Yeah, movie theaters were like one of the last things to reopen.
Yeah,
So it's not
I mean,
considered
for, for good
essential.
reason. But it's like, maybe that was played a part in it.
Maybe.
I don't know.
But
There was a couple big movies that came out.
yeah, it makes me sad, and this just goes to show like one of those. It's the same argument where like people argue that Hollywood comes out with no original movies, or everything's been said already, and Hollywood just rehashes the same ideas, and it's like no, like we get like nice original films like this, but then they don't get appreciated in the box office. So studios see that and they're like, oh, okay, we're not going to make films like this anymore. Let's make Fast and Furious 19.
Mm-hmm.
People love that, and it's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you really want to, see new ideas come out of Hollywood and new things get made, you got to go support it.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I just rant over, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah, it definitely upsets me to see that this flopped because I feel like it's so underappreciated, and I think this movie should be watched by
Yeah,
tons of people.
I don't understand. Well, one of the movies that came out in 2021 was Dune in November.
Yeah, but that one didn't that go straight to
No.
streaming as well?
No, it was out on theaters.
No, it was
first.
out in theaters along with streaming on HBO Max at the same time.
So the top 5 movies that came out in November were Eternals,
Oh boy.
Ghostbusters Afterlife,
Oh, boy.
surprisingly Clifford the Big Red Dog,
What?
Encanto, and
Yeah.
Dune.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So there's some big movies
So
there.
that's
I
what
mean,
came out.
Yeah,
but-
anything Marvel is just gonna make $500 billion.
Charles doesn't deserve it, dude. It sucks. It sucks.
The name carries it.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I've got a fact here actually about Woody Norman, who plays Jesse, and I did not know that he's actually British. So the
What?
entire time he acts in this film, he's doing an accent.
No way.
What in the world?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I never ever would have guessed that.
Me either.
What in the world, dude?
I only
Yeah.
have one small fact, and this is my one and only. That this movie was shot in sequence.
Which I appreciate.
I think that's pretty cool because you don't hear that a lot.
Yeah. It's definitely. I almost want to maybe rare is not the right word, but it's not the norm to
It's not.
shoot things in sequence anymore. And when a film does that, I don't know. I just feel like they
You just
really
gotta learn to
they
appreciate it.
care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. Pretty cool.
Any facts over here?
The alternate title, there was one for this, and it was considered Magnetic Fields, which I thought was cool.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're alluding to the band, which I thought would be pretty sweet, but
Uh-huh.
I don't imagine why else they would choose it.
Okay. I've got two more.
Okay.
One specifically from the writer, Mike Mills. When he was finishing the script, he was having difficulty deciding on the tone of the film. Like, should it be funny or not? His kid, actually, a 7-year-old at the time, came up with the line, be funny, comma, when you can, period. They also added, well, be funny, comma, when you can. And he ends up using that line in the movie and even goes to name his production company Be Funny When You Can Productions.
Aw.
Really?
Yeah.
That's wholesome.
Yeah. So his own production company is named that after what his kid told him.
Be funny when you can.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then the last one, in regards to the wrestling scene, this part was actually not a part of the original script.
Really?
It was based on a joke during the face-to-face audition between Woody Norman and Joaquin Phoenix. And Woody had mentioned that he really liked to play fight with his brother, and Joaquin decided to try that out during the audition. This was also Woody's favorite scene in the film.
Really?
Yeah.
I think it might be mine too. Cool.
But other than that, that's it for the facts that I've got.
Yeah.
Me too.
All right. What didn't work in this film?
So what did work?
No, do you really have nothing? No criticisms?
I think the only thing that I have is I wish that there was more of a visible arc for Johnny.
Me too.
I kind of wish that we got to see Johnny maybe go through a couple more things emotionally to where we can actually like visibly see that he truly does care for this kid more. Like I think about the scenes where he talks on the phone with Viv and he has like tells Viv what's going on with Jesse. I kind of almost wish that there was a conversation that took place between them where he just gets like excited or amped and he's like, man, I love hanging out with this kid. Like I'm so interested in everything that he's interested in, and I just like seeing his mind work and watching him experience things and ask questions and
It's very subtle.
yeah, and I kind of wish that maybe something like that was thrown in because it would just hit home even more the fact that he really does care about this kid, Jesse. And, based on the beginning of the film, him kind of having this awkward interaction with him till now, the end of the film, seeing him like just be so enthralled with him and being like, man, I'm so excited to be his uncle. I think would have been nice.
Okay.
I think the only thing for me was I wish the movie was actually a little bit longer.
Okay.
It
was almost
felt-
about 2 hours.
It was almost 2 hours. It was an hour 49, I believe.
Yeah.
But it felt super short for me.
Okay.
That
That could be a good thing.
Yeah, and maybe it's because maybe like you said, you want more of a character arc for him.
Yeah.
So maybe if I saw a little bit more of what he did or how he got there to that job, Johnny, maybe that would be a good beginning to the movie, or like what was wrong with their mom.
Okay.
And maybe why they were separated for Viv and Johnny, their siblings, and why they didn't talk for quite a while.
Yeah.
But me just being selfish, I wish it was a little bit more long because I enjoyed it so much.
Okay.
So not
Yeah.
necessarily a bad thing,
Mm-hmm.
but just something that I wanted.
Yeah. That's one thing I wanted more of the mom and that dynamic between the Viv and Johnny. And I
Yeah.
also questioned the structure of the whole like the father's role in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
I almost thought he was in there too much, but also too little. Like, there were moments where I found it kind of comical because you would see Viv is like, okay, I gotta go, and I'm gonna come back, and then you get a call, and she's like, oh, I gotta stay until I'm just a little better, and then you get another call, oh, I gotta stay again, oh, I gotta stay one more time, and I'm just like, we don't really need this, it's too much. It's almost like we understand, we get it. You just stay there until you need to. Like, we don't need you to keep calling and saying all this. And then it didn't really get a whole lot of the father. So it was almost like there wasn't enough there for me to be invested in the character of the father, or to me to feel sympathetic to the father at all. So it was like he's there as like a kind of like a plot just to separate Viv and Johnny and Jesse. And I don't know. I was like, maybe it would have been better as like not the audience not knowing the father's situation, but getting it slowly through dialogue between Jesse and Johnny, and getting to dive deeper into the orphan role. And maybe because sometimes I felt a little bit of like the orphan role was like kind of on the nose,
or like a projection or something.
Yeah, and we already knew that because we know the father's situation. But if it was more obtuse, and we could be like, oh, maybe he like the father struggles with this, and this is just how John or Jesse is displaying that, and like being more vulnerable as the movie goes on, and then at the very end we get a more full picture of the situation with the dad and all that stuff. Okay, I thought that maybe could work. Okay, I think it'd have to change around a bunch of stuff, but there was moments where I was like, what significance is the dad really having now? And
that makes sense.
Okay.
It's got me thinking. Yeah. What else didn't work? I get just slice of life movies to me. Sometimes they hit really good, and then other times they don't. And I'm not saying that this one didn't hit because I loved it, but it was another, like, there were moments where I was just like, I was asking myself, like, okay, what's gonna happen next? Like I'm trying to see the gears here. What are they gonna do next? Yeah. Rather than it just be dialogue all the time. I was like, what's really gonna happen? Where's the impact gonna hit? Yeah. And I never felt that impact, but I still recognize the greatness of this movie. So, okay, there you go.
Most definitely. Any other things that didn't work?
Not that I can think of.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's talk about what did work.
First and foremost, for me, I love that this movie's a modern day movie and it's in black and white.
Yeah, I love the black and white. Yeah. It continues the whole role of every single movie I watch that's in black and white. I freaking love it. I freaking love it. There hasn't been one single one I haven't liked. Yeah, and maybe I need to watch more. I definitely do need to watch more, but everyone I've loved.
I loved it.
Yeah, like most definitely. I have to echo that as well. The cinematography is just gorgeous.
It's freaking gorgeous. There are scenes where you just get landscapes. Yeah. And I'm like,
yeah, it's beautiful.
It's beautiful, dude. Yeah. I freaking loved it.
Yeah. I also have to say I really love the score to this movie. It's understated, but it's so atmospheric. It feels like it kind of like I feel like this might be a bad comparison, but it almost reminds me of like some of the score to Drive. Like the score in Drive like feels like very like ethereal and like airy feeling, and like it feels like there's all this room, for all this stuff to happen. And this score kind of almost made me feel that way in a little bit. And I don't know. The score almost makes me feel like I'm floating. And I went through the whole score today while I was at work, and was just listening to it cover to cover and adding songs to my playlist. And I just ended up loving it. I thought it really complemented the movie well, and just the tone of everything. Yeah.
At one of the points of the movie, I heard Claire de Lune on there.
Oh yes.
And I said, bro, this is beautiful. Like, and it was like a perfect scene to play it in. So I totally get you on there. Another thing that I really liked is, I know you guys like to make fun of me because I like my handheld during movies sometimes. In this film, you don't need your handheld, and I understood it perfectly. Good. So I would credit that to the writing. Yeah. Because it's so simple, but so, what's the word I want to use? Like I feel like it's an adult movie. Yeah. But it's so simple that anybody can understand it.
Yeah. I had written down that I feel like the writing feels very compassionate.
I was going to bring it to writing.
And very genuine. And I had put down a little subplot and said, This film oozes love for people, life, and parenthood.
Mm-hmm.
And I love how serious it takes children, and it shows that we can learn things from them regardless of them being kids. It also just shows us how complex kids are, how they think, and how curious they are about life and other, things in the world. And kind of like almost how some people should still like strive to have that childlike mindset or like childlike hope and things where like you just believe that things are going to happen because you're a kid, you don't know any better.
Yeah.
And sometimes that can like really benefit you in situations.
Yeah.
And I think that the writing just hit that on the head.
Yeah. Acting was incredible.
I would
yeah.
I genuinely
100%,
believe-
yeah.
Amazing acting.
I believe that they were uncle and nephew. Honestly, I was like, they've
I-
got great chemistry. I
Yeah.
love this.
I loved the performances from everybody. You feel every bit of emotion portrayed throughout the entire film.
For sure.
Yeah. I also had written down, this might sound a little lame, but this movie made me want to start like documenting things
No,
to look back
literally.
on when I get older.
Yeah.
And like it made me want to like
have like a voice recorder.
yeah, like have like a almost like a voice diary or like like a journal.
Start a
Just
YouTube.
imagine just you're going home at night or something. Just have your phone or voice recorder. And just, today
Yeah.
is August 29th, 2022.
Yeah, and
I
you're
did
just
this
kind of
today.
The
and I
weather
felt this
today.
yeah.
Like an almanac. Is that how you say it?
Almanac.
Is that how you say
I
it?
would say like maybe a journal or something like that, like because an almanac is, I think, something in.
It's a annual calendar containing important dates and statistical information.
There you go. So
It's a little. This is more informal, more
Yeah.
like,
yeah, I don't know. I
like,
just
or not even every day type thing. It's just like, hey, today, you're one of.
I
He
did
said I was
this.
his best friend,
yeah,
and it could be something as minuscule as that, but it's something that you
Yeah.
want to hold on to.
yeah, and that's something that I think. So you bring
People
up
call you.
YouTube.
People will call you. Oh, what do they say? Oh,
A
you're
blogger.
No, they call you like, oh, you're sentimental, or oh, you're. But they use it like somewhat
in like a
derogatory.
demeaning way.
Yeah, because I used to.
And it's like I care.
Yeah,
You know? Like
yeah, or they'll call you soft. and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But I get you.
it's holding on to those things,
Yeah.
those memories. And I like that you brought up YouTube because a lot of people use YouTube as like a journal,
Yeah.
almost. But I don't want that to like be in the public eye. And like I could like private things.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a part of me too where like I kind of like it makes me want to do these things, and then whenever I get older and my kids grow up and then they see this stuff like, oh, what's on Dad's computer or something like that, or like, oh, like why does he have all these tapes? Like what is all this stuff? And they pop it in one day and they just randomly hear me being like, today's August 28th. Today I recorded the podcast with the guys and. I felt happy today. And,
Yeah.
It was hot out, but, I still put in my walk and like, just talk about my day. And like,
Yeah.
I think about like what that could possibly mean to somebody and them just getting these glimpses into my life.
You're
that,
wondering
like,
about your legacy, man.
yeah. And like how they would feel like knowing a little bit more about me, like
Yeah.
when I'm gone. And
Well, we've had moments where you're with the whole family and you pull out the old VHSs
yeah. And you
and you
relive
get like
these,
you're like, wow.
you relive these moments.
Yeah.
That you remember so vividly, and then you see it on screen, and you're just kind of like,
You just want to leave pieces of you so people know who you were and
yeah,
like
exactly.
what you amounted to. you
Yeah.
know. I get that.
Yeah. Other than that, I also wrote down the sound design. I loved the sound editing.
Oh, with the
and,
whole
with the whole mic, using the mic for certain audio and all that. I
for
just
sure.
thought that it was incredibly like practical
Mhm.
to use it, and I feel like I would have even thought of it. Like I would have been like, oh yeah, he's not going to actually record on that. We're going to use our other mics, and this is just going to be a prop. But no, they actually sat down and were like, no, this is going to be it. Like we're going to use this, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that's all I've got to say.
I will say this movie is really, really rewatchable. I would rewatch this quite often.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely one of those movies that's going to call back to me, and I'm just going to be like, man, I want to watch that.
Yeah.
And I'm going to pop it in, and I think it will have the same impact for me every time.
Mhm.
So, if that's it for what did work, who wins this movie?
Yeah.
I
I'm
gotta
gonna
say Joaquin.
Yeah, Joaquin Phoenix for me.
Okay. Yeah, same here.
He freaking kills it.
Yeah.
It's not
God-
even fair. At this
Gotta
point.
love it. What are some themes for this movie?
I only wrote Run, and I, now thinking about it, I don't know if it matches, but I just put take a second and listen.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Being understood is very important, especially in any relationship.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key concept of this movie for sure.
I think just like I said in the beginning, I would love to do those things, and I think people would just be appreciated to be listened, to be heard.
Yeah.
So that's why I put take a second and listen.
Yeah. I put life is messy and you have to embrace it.
Yeah.
And then I put you'll never have full control over your future.
Oh yeah.
And I think
That's a
that
good one.
is highlighted just on the whole
Jesse saying
well,
like,
come on.
yeah, him saying like, have you ever thought about the future? And he's like, yeah, everything that I think about never happens. It never happens.
It's like,
it never happens the way that you think it will.
Yeah.
You just
never
gotta have to come on.
You
You just gotta go.
Yeah. You just gotta go.
I'd written down the theme of having the importance of forming meaningful relationships,
For sure.
That's a good one.
and just how important that is in somebody's life.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah, that's about it. What are we rating this bad boy?
I'm curious what you have to say. You were saying some high numbers earlier, and I was like, "Whoa, really?"
I'm giving it a 10.
Okay.
Whoa.
It's a 10.
All right. It's a
We
10.
haven't given a 10 out in a long time.
I put on my notes a 9.5, but I just thought about it and I was like, I could rewatch it right now and I cry and I smile.
Wow.
It's a 10.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna give it a 9. I really, really like this movie. I love everything that it has to say, and it's a great film, and I wish that it was more appreciated.
I'm gonna give this one an 8.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. There's so many great things about it. I just missed that impact at the end. I was like,
Okay.
I want more. I wish I could connect more.
Okay.
I just didn't. But an 8.
Respectable. No,
Still
it's
good.
really respectable.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's it for the episode, you guys. So if you stuck all the way to the end, we do appreciate it. As always, interact with the episodes and all the stuff that we're doing here, whether that be liking or subscribing or leaving a comment or hitting the bell notification on our YouTube channels. You can also interact with the content on our podcast apps, whether that be Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Google or wherever you listen. And you can do that by leaving rating and reviews. They do help out a lot, and they give a little bit more credence to the show. So we do appreciate you guys for doing so and checking out everything that we're doing here. We've been loving it. We've been doing it for close to 2 years now, and
Almost, dude. It's crazy.
It's something I've looked forward to for the past 2 years. So,
Yeah, every Monday.
so
Sit down, talking.
I'm having fun with it, and I'm glad that you guys are enjoying the stuff as well. So if you are, show us that love through those mediums and share the episodes, and get this thing out here to as many film lovers as possible. But other than that, or I guess I should say, every episode description, you can find all of our methods of contact, whether that be Instagram or email, Letterboxd accounts, all that stuff. It's all there. So use that stuff however you guys want. But other than that, it's Nick's pick.
Yes.
Next week.
Episode 89.
What movie are we doing?
We've talked
Is it
about
really
this.
episode 89?
I think so.
Holy
That's
cow.
what I have. We have talked about this before. Go to your Target, because by the time I announce it, they're all going to be gone. We are doing the 2015 Mad Max Fury Road. I haven't returned to this movie in a long time. I remember just how freaking beautiful and colorful this film is. I remember it's the most vibrant blues against the most luscious oranges, and I can't wait to dive back into this world.
Okay.
I think of one specific scene, and it's when what's her name is driving the truck and they're attacking it. Oh,
I'm
Yeah.
excited because I've never watched it.
you've never seen it?
No, this is
I
going
want
to
to
be
say
a
I
first
watched
for
it like
me.
2 months ago, 2 or 3 months ago.
This is going to be a first for me, and I see a lot of the cinema pages I follow on Instagram always post about it.
This movie's
And
great, dude.
I'm really excited to see what all the hype is about and to dive into it on my own. I think the only Mad Max I've ever watched was like the original one with Mel Gibson.
Oh, really?
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's like came out in the 80s.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think I watched it with my Uncle Jimmy. So like it's one of those movies where like, my uncle put it on, he's like, "Oh, this movie's sick." And then you watch it again later when you're younger and you're just kind of like, "Oh, this is totally an 80s movie." you know?
There's the cast in this is crazy. Tom Hardy, Charlize Theron, Nicholas Hoult, Zoe Kravitz. I mean, you've got some really heavy hitters.
I'm excited. I think one of the things that I'm really excited about is to see all of like the set design and costume design and makeup and all that stuff, because I've seen like certain things, like I see like the guy like playing the guitar and the flames come out, and I was just like, this looks insane. Like,
it is very insane.
I'm exciid to check it out.
Yeah,
so.
the universe is awesome.
Yeah, so tune in next week and hear our thoughts on Mad Max Fury Road. It's streaming on HBO Max.
That is correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So if you have HBO Max and you want a refresher, or if you're like me and you haven't checked it out yet and you want a reason to do so, go watch it and then tune in next week to hear what we have to say about that.
Yeah.
So as always, this has been the Film Bros Podcast. Thank you and good night.
Good night.
Good night.